You close your eyes, and the world outside begins to fade. The soft hum of life distant sounds, faint thoughts, dissolves into a slower rhythm. Beneath that stillness, something exquisite begins to unfold. Inside your skull, a vast and living architecture hums quietly, more intricate than any cathedral, more luminous than any galaxy. It is your brain, an ocean of shimmering connections, moving and changing in silence. You might think of your mind as a single, solid thing, a fixed identity, a container for memories and moods. But in truth, it is never still. Even now, as you rest, billions of neurons are alive in dialogue, exchanging whispers of electricity and chemistry. Each thought you have, each moment you remember, each emotion you feel is not a thing, but an event, a brief symphony of light that blooms and fades within this vast inner cosmos. Imagine standing in a forest at night, surrounded by fireflies. They flicker in patterns you can't fully predict, yet the longer you stay, the more meaning you sense in their dance. That is your brain, patterns of light-forming thoughts, dissolving into silence, then rising again. A living network of possibility, woven through time and experience. Every neuron, every tiny cell, has its own story. A neuron does not think or feel. It listens and responds. When one fires, it sends a pulse down a delicate thread called an axon, carrying a message to the next cell. That pulse is electricity, about 70 millivolts of energy. A spark of life, smaller than lightning, but just as bright in meaning. Where that axon meets another cell, a synapse forms a tiny gap, less than 1,000th of a millimeter wide. Across that gap, chemicals leap, carrying information that may shape the next thought, the next memory, the next dream. This is the quiet architecture of the mind, billions of neurons, each connected to thousands of others, forming a shimmering web of possibility. The patterns that rise from these connections give you language, emotion, imagination, and choice. But the beauty of this architecture lies not only in its structure, it lies in its change. For your brain is not a machine built once and left unchanged. It is a garden, a breathing, growing landscape. Pathways strengthen with use, weaken with neglect, and regenerate with intention. Each new experience, each gentle focus, each moment of reflection lays down new trails of connection. The architecture rewires itself to meet your life. This, the scientists call neuroplasticity, but you can think of it as your mind's quiet way of evolving with your attention. You can feel it now, if you listen inwardly. Notice how a single breath alters your body's rhythm. Your heart slows, your muscles release, your awareness expands. Even this act, slowing down, paying attention, is shaping new patterns. Calm itself becomes a lesson your brain can learn. When you return to it again and again, your neurons learn the melody of rest. They become fluent in stillness. Your mind, once a storm of scattered thoughts, learns to gather itself like light through a lens. Each moment of gentle focus trains pathways of attention. Each time you release tension, your brain learns the language of letting go. These are not abstract ideas, they are physical changes, small shifts in the architecture of your being. Imagine a sculptor working with clay. Each thought, each emotion, each habit is a hand shaping that clay, smoothing, pressing, reshaping its form. The clay never dries. It stays soft, open to touch. This is what your brain does each day. It records your patterns, what you attend to, what you ignore, what you love, what you fear, and molds itself accordingly. You are both the sculptor and the sculpture, and just as a sculptor pauses between strokes, so must the mind. Without stillness, the shape cannot emerge. That is why moments of calm, like this one, are not emptiness, they are design. They give the brain space to reorganize, to breathe, to prepare for renewal. Consider what happens when you learn something new, say, a language or a skill. At first, your neurons fire in scattered bursts, searching for rhythm. But with repetition, a pattern forms. Neurons that fire together begin to wire together, building a pathway of ease. It's as though you are carving a trail through a forest, at first overgrown, difficult to walk, but with each step, the path clears. Eventually, it becomes a natural route your mind can travel without effort. Now imagine doing the same for peace, for patience, for kindness, for curiosity. Each time you return to calm reflection, you are clearing a path toward it. Over days, months, years, that path becomes your natural home. Neuroplasticity means that serenity is not something you must chase. It is something you can build. Even memories, which feel like fixed photographs of the past, are flexible. When you recall an event, your brain reactivates the pattern that formed it. But in reactivation, the pattern becomes open to change. You remember and you rewrite. The next time you recall that memory, it carries traces of your present state. If you recall it with gentleness, you soften it. If you recall it with anger, you reinforce it. Memory, too, is sculpted by the emotional light you bring to it in this way. Your life is not a story written once, but one continually edited by your attention. The architecture of your brain is not only a reflection of what has happened to you, it is a reflection of how you meet what happens. This realization carries a quiet kind of power. It means that healing is possible, that learning never ends, that even in moments of fatigue or fear, the architecture beneath is alive, waiting to reorganize around safety and care. The mind's design is patient. It does not demand, it responds. In the calm state you rest in now, glial cells, the quiet caretakers of your neurons, begin their work. They clear away metabolic debris, protect fragile axons, and encourage new growth. They are gardeners of the brain's internal landscape. Their work deepens during sleep, but even in this wakeful calm, they respond to your stillness. Your very act of rest gives them permission to repair. The architecture, it seems, loves quiet. If you could look inside your head now, not with eyes, but with imagination, you might see faint pulses of blue light moving through a dark sea. These lights drift, collide, separate, and reform a living constellation. You might watch them synchronizing into patterns that resemble waves, ebbing and flowing with your breath. For that is what thought is: organized rhythm. The brain's gentle tides of communication. Each wave carries the echo of every experience you've had. Each new thought leaves a trace that becomes the soil for the next one. And beneath it all, a deep intelligence moves without words, the body's wisdom. The quiet knowing that you are alive and changing in every instant. To understand the mind's architecture is to realize it is not separate from the body. The brain listens to the heart, to the lungs, to the gut. Signals travel both ways, weaving sensation and meaning into one continuous story. When your breath deepens, Your vagus nerve, a long, winding messenger, carries calm to your brainstem. Your heart rate steadies, and the brain begins to synchronize its rhythm to the slower pulse of your breath. The architecture of calm is built from this simple conversation between body and mind, and perhaps this is why awareness matters so deeply. To become aware of your thoughts is to stand within the blueprint of your own creation. Each gentle noticing, each moment you observe without judgment, strengthens pathways of insight. The brain learns that it can see without reacting. It learns that silence can hold more truth than noise. You are not separate from your architecture. You are its expression, the unfolding of billions of tiny lights in perfect timing. You are the cathedral and the prayer within it. As your breath settles into stillness, you sense how vast your mind truly is. Each neuron, each connection, each flicker of energy, all participate in this one experience you call you. And yet, beyond the hum of circuits and cells, there is something even quieter, the awareness that watches, that feels, that chooses. The architecture serves this awareness, not the other way around. So you rest now, knowing that inside your silence, the builders of thought are at work, strengthening, pruning, preparing new connections for tomorrow. The architecture continues, never static. Always listening to how you meet the world, you breathe once more, and the image of that glowing forest returns neurons as trees, roots as pathways, synapses as stars scattered through living night. A pulse of light moves from one to another, rippling through your internal sky. You watch, wordless, feeling how life itself is shaped by attention, by patience, by care. Somewhere deep within that forest, a new signal stirs, faint, delicate, full of promise. A connection waiting to be formed. A thought about connection itself. And in that quiet wonder, your mind begins to drift toward its next mystery. How those lights learn to speak to one another. You are still in the forest of the mind. The light has shifted, softer now, more intimate. Between the living branches of neurons, you notice small spaces glowing faintly, like dewdrops suspended in air. They tremble, alive with invisible motion. These are the synapses, the delicate bridges that let your thoughts cross from one neuron to the next. Each synapse is impossibly small, yet it holds the secret of your consciousness. It is here, in these tiny spaces, that signals leap, ideas emerge, and memories take root. Without them, the brain would be a silent landscape, countless trees with no wind to move them. But with synapses, the forest sings. A single neuron may connect with thousands of others, each bond a unique conversation. When one neuron fires, it releases an electric wave that travels down its slender axon. At the end, the signal reaches a synaptic terminal, a minute bulb waiting at the edge of space. There, the electrical language transforms. The neuron whispers its message in chemistry, releasing small molecules called neurotransmitters. They drift across the synaptic gap, landing on the next cell, carrying meaning encoded in their shape and timing. Think of this as the language of the stars, messages sent as light, interpreted as gravity and motion. The neurons, like celestial bodies, do not touch, yet they communicate perfectly through the void. Each pulse is a word, each molecule a tone. The conversation continues endlessly, forming the rhythm that becomes thought, memory, movement. emotion, the entirety of your inner experience. It is easy to imagine thinking as something abstract, a cloud of ideas floating somewhere above you. But here, in the synapse, you see that thought is physical. It is made of particles and timing, chemistry and care. Every emotion has a biological signature, every idea a pattern of firing cells. And yet, even within this tangible machinery, there is grace, a poetry that arises from order and chance combined. Each connection you form in life, every friendship, every word spoken, every act of love finds a mirror here. At this microscopic level, your brain's very structure is built on connection. Synapses grow stronger when you use them, weaker when you neglect them. The language of the neurons follows the same rule as the language of the heart. Connection deepens through attention. Pause for a moment. Take a breath, slow and easy. Imagine that as you inhale, millions of tiny messengers leap across the gaps within your brain. Dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, small but significant couriers of awareness. With each exhale, they return to rest, recycled and renewed. Your entire inner world depends on this elegant dance, a chemistry that keeps you balanced, creative, awake. Dopamine hums when you feel joy, curiosity, or reward. It is the spark that says, try again, learn more, move forward. Serotonin, calmer and quieter, hums when you feel safe and satisfied. Glutamate carries the message of learning, lighting pathways that strengthen when repeated. GABA, its gentle opposite, cools the system, a molecular whisper saying, enough for now, rest. Together, they compose the language that keeps your mind alive. They are the brain's words for hope, stillness, focus, and peace. Each moment you feel inspired or calm, some balance of these messengers is at work, shaping your awareness molecule by molecule. You might wonder, what keeps this delicate communication from collapsing under its own complexity? The answer is rhythm. The brain is not chaos, it is orchestration. Each neuron keeps time, firing in coordination with others, forming patterns of resonance that scientists call neural oscillations. These rhythms shape everything, from your thoughts to your sleep, your perception of time to your mood. When you listen to music, for instance, your neurons synchronize to the beat. They pulse in time with melody and emotion. When you meditate, your brain waves slow and align into gentle harmony, alpha and theta rhythms like slow waves on a shore. The synapses, the connections, follow this rhythm, strengthening as your mind settles into coherence. In this sense, your brain is an instrument, one that plays itself. Each note, each silence, contributes to the grand composition of your being. And as with any instrument, care shapes tone. The more gently and intentionally you play, the more beautifully it sings. Consider how memory begins. When two neurons communicate often, the synapse between them grows stronger. The receptors on the receiving side multiply, ready to catch every chemical message. The sending side learns to release more neurotransmitters. This process, called long-term potentiation, is the cellular foundation of memory. It's how the brain learns to remember love, language, music, and meaning. So, when you practice something new, a movement, a thought pattern, a habit of kindness, you are strengthening your synaptic bridges. Each repetition lays down another layer of connection. The mind, with infinite patience, weaves those layers into understanding. Even when you sleep, the conversation continues. The brain replays what it has learned, testing and refining its connections, as if whispering, "Remember this. This is important." You begin to sense how living itself is a dialogue between one cell and another, one breath and the next, one moment and the one that follows. The synapses do not simply transmit, they translate. They decide what to pass on, what to quiet. They filter experience through priority and emotion, shaping perception into meaning. In their silence and transmission, they choose what becomes you, and yet, the more you look, the more you see that this microscopic conversation is not confined within your skull. It reflects something larger, a universal pattern of connection. Stars form constellations, rivers branch into tributaries, trees reach toward one another underground through roots and fungi. Nature repeats this theme endlessly, separate forms, endlessly communicating. The synapse is the human echo of that same cosmic principle. Perhaps that is why connection feels so essential, why loneliness aches, and why empathy soothes. Your brain is wired to connect, to mirror, to resonate, to understand. The same pathways that allow neurons to speak also allow you to feel another's joy or pain. Mirror neurons, scientists call them cells that fire not only when you act, but when you see someone else act. They are the biological basis of empathy, the bridge between minds. When you watch someone smile, your own neural circuits light up as if you, too, were smiling. When you see someone cry, your brain mirrors their emotion. This is the synapse extended into the world, a connection that leaps the gap between bodies in every sense. Then you are a being of bridges. Within you and beyond you, life depends on connection. The more you nurture it with attention, with kindness, with presence, the stronger and more beautiful your architecture becomes. And so you sit quietly now, aware of these invisible bridges humming inside you. Each pulse a word, each pause a breath. Between the neurons, the language of life continues, electrical, chemical, eternal. You realize that learning itself is simply the act of improving communication between neurons, between senses, between you and the world. To learn is to connect, and to connect is to live more deeply. You rest in this understanding for a moment, feeling gratitude for your own inner network. It is never silent. Even as you drift toward sleep, the messages continue to flow, neurons firing softly, building new memories, rebalancing emotion. Your synapses are the keepers of continuity, ensuring that you awaken tomorrow, not as someone entirely new, but as someone gently evolved. The thought feels peaceful, that even in stillness, communication continues, that silence is not emptiness, but the space where messages breathe. Somewhere in that silence, you imagine a single synapse glowing a little brighter, as if aware that you are thinking of it. It sends its signal onward, like a ripple across a pond, touching others in turn. A wave of quiet light spreads through the forest of your mind, connecting, remembering, growing, and you wonder softly, what happens when these connections become habits, when pathways of thought turn into rivers of repetition, when learning becomes living and repetition becomes change? That, perhaps, is the next mystery waiting to unfold. You linger in the quiet after the last thought, that image of light rippling across your inner forest. Those waves do not vanish. They move, merge, and settle into channels that carry energy with less effort each time. These channels are the beginnings of habits, the rivers that guide the flow of your daily life. At first, a habit begins like a drop of rain on untouched earth. It rolls uncertainly, finding a path of least resistance. But with repetition, through days, weeks, years, the drop becomes a trickle, then a stream, and finally a river. Carving its way through the soft terrain of your brain, each action you repeat, whether brushing your teeth, checking your phone, or pausing to breathe, sends a pulse down a specific neural pathway. With each repetition, the brain strengthens that root, wrapping it in layers of myelin, the insulating sheath that speeds communication between cells. The more myelin, the easier the signal travels. What was once effortful becomes automatic. This is the neuroscience of habit, the physical manifestation of repetition. Your brain loves efficiency. It conserves energy by turning repeated behaviors into patterns that require less conscious thought. It is not lazy, only wise. It saves its brightest flame for what is new, while letting the well-traveled paths run quietly beneath awareness. Yet, those same quiet paths shape much of your life. Many of your choices, your moods, even your thoughts, follow the grooves laid by habit. When you wake in the morning, the first motion of your hand toward a device, the tone of your self-talk, the rhythm of your breath, these are not isolated decisions, but echoes of yesterday. Habits are not enemies. They are the scaffolding that frees your attention for creation and learning. Without them, you would need to relearn every movement, every task, every word. Habits allow you to stand upon stable ground, but they also carry the power to narrow the terrain of the mind. When a pattern forms that brings tension or distraction, it too becomes a river, deep and persuasive. You may find yourself pulled toward it again and again, not by choice, but by familiarity. The brain cannot tell the moral value of a pattern. It only follows the frequency of its use. What you repeat, it reinforces. And here lies the quiet power of awareness. For the first step in reshaping the river is not resistance, but recognition. To see the flow clearly, to trace its curves without judgment, is to begin the process of change. Imagine standing beside a river that has carved a path through stone. You cannot stop it with force, but you can guide it gently over time. You can redirect its course by shaping small channels elsewhere, new grooves for new waters. The same is true within you. Each time you replace an old reaction with a breath, each time you choose patience over impulse, you are opening a new route. With repetition, the new stream grows stronger. The old one begins to fade. The neurons themselves participate in this quiet reformation. When a pathway is used less often, the synapses weaken. Receptors are removed, connections loosen, and energy finds other routes. The brain does not cling to what no longer serves. It reclaims resources and redistributes them toward new growth. Neuroscientists call this synaptic pruning, the brain's way of gardening. Like a tree that drops dead branches to strengthen the living ones, your mind prunes unused connections to nourish what is vital. The pruning does not feel like loss. It feels like clarity, the space that emerges when noise falls away. You may have noticed this in your own life. When you begin a new practice, learning an instrument, meditating, journaling, it feels awkward at first. The brain hesitates, searching for stable ground. But with patience, repetition, and gentleness, the discomfort fades. The pattern stabilizes. One day, without realizing when it happened, you find the movement effortless. That is neuroplasticity at work, the brain's quiet reward for your consistency. The same law applies to emotional habits. If you respond to stress with fear, those neurons fire together again and again, strengthening that emotional reflex. But if you pause, breathe, and introduce calm awareness, new pathways begin to form. Over time, the old river erodes, and the new one flows more naturally. You begin to live from a landscape that feels spacious and calm, not confined by old currents. This transformation is not a matter of force, but of frequency. The brain listens to repetition, not to intensity. A single grand effort to change means little if it stands alone, but 1,000 small, gentle efforts reshape the terrain forever. Each night you fall asleep with intention. Each morning you wake with awareness. The rivers adjust their course. You may think of this process as reteaching your own neurons how to sing. The old melodies of habit do not disappear. They are rewritten. New rhythms replace the old. What once was the song of worry becomes the song of ease. Inside your head, this process is visible under the lens of science. The basal ganglia, a cluster of structures deep within the brain, act as the conductor of habitual behavior. They record sequences of actions and play them back automatically when triggered. The prefrontal cortex, your center of conscious decision-making, oversees this system, intervening when needed. Over time, as a new pattern strengthens, control shifts from conscious effort to automatic rhythm. You might feel this as the moment when meditation no longer requires discipline, but becomes a homecoming. When gratitude no longer needs prompting, but arises unbidden. When patience feels like your first instinct, not your last resort. These are the signs of rewiring the rivers of your brain, learning new songs. Still, the process is not linear. Old pathways remain dormant but not gone. Under stress, the brain may revert, following the easiest course. This is not failure. It is simply water finding familiar ground. The work, then, is not to demand perfection, but to return gently to awareness each time. To keep redirecting the flow with patience and compassion. In this returning lies the heart of neuroplastic change, the understanding that progress is not the absence of relapse, but the persistence of attention. Each time you return, you strengthen the new path just a little more. Imagine, again, your internal forest. Between the trees, rivers glow faintly with neural light. Some rush with noise and speed, the habits of haste, of doubt, of reaction. Others flow slowly, shimmering with stillness, the habits of rest, of presence, of care. Both belong to you. Both can be tended. The shift begins in small ways, choosing to pause before replying, to notice your breath before speaking, to reflect before judging. Each of these moments is a hand on the current, redirecting it toward clarity. Over months, the river obeys. It follows the shape of your gentleness. This is how change truly happens, not through sudden force, but through steady grace. You do not break your habits. You outgrow them. The neurons simply follow where your attention lingers most as you lie here. Imagine those rivers glowing beneath your awareness. You can almost see them branching, intertwining, reweaving into new shapes. Each small intention sends ripples through the network, reshaping the terrain of your inner world. Habits of mind, habits of thought, habits of being, all are invitations to sculpt the flow. If a pattern brings peace, nurture it. If it brings tension, observe it until it softens. The brain listens. It adapts. It becomes what you practice most often, and perhaps the most profound realization of all is that this ability never fades. No matter your age, your story, or your past, your brain remains plastic, open to learning, ready to change. Scientists once believed neuroplasticity belonged only to the young, but now they know it is lifelong. The river never ceases to reshape its bed. You might smile at that thought, that even tonight, as you rest, the quiet builders within you are adjusting their flow. That each calm breath deepens your capacity for peace. That awareness itself is the architect of transformation. For as you let go into sleep, the day's experiences will replay in miniature within your neural circuits. The patterns repeated with emotion, what you loved, what you feared, what you focused on, will be strengthened. The rest will fade. Sleep, too, is part of this gentle shaping, a nightly sculptor working under the stars of your mind. The rivers continue their motion, steady and sure. You sense that every current, no matter how winding, moves toward balance. Change is not a battle between old and new, but a harmony of adaptation, a merging of what was with what is becoming. And in this merging, a quiet question begins to rise like mist above the river. If habits can change the brain so deeply, what happens during the hours when you surrender control, when the mind drifts into sleep itself? You feel that question settle softly in the folds of your awareness, a whisper that invites your next journey into the night garden of the brain, where sleep becomes the caretaker of growth. You lie at the edge of wakefulness, that delicate threshold where the mind begins to loosen its grip on the day. Around you, the world softens. Sounds stretch, thoughts dissolve, and something ancient begins to take over. This is the entrance to your brain's most mysterious workshop, the nightly garden of sleep. For centuries, humans believed that sleep was merely rest, a dimming of the body, a silence of the mind. But science now tells a deeper truth. While your body lies still, your brain becomes a field of shimmering activity. In the darkness, it tends to the roots of memory, emotion, and health, pruning, watering, replanting. Sleep is not an absence. It is a transformation. As consciousness fades, the reticular formation in your brainstem gently lowers its signal, allowing the gates of awareness to close. The outer cortex quiets, but deep inside, ancient structures awaken. Your brain waves slow into gentle theta rhythms, the same patterns found in deep meditation, and the hippocampus begins its nightly ritual. It replays the day's moments in miniature, deciding which memories to keep and which to release. Some are woven into long-term storage. Others dissolve like mist. It is as though a gardener walks through a field of flowers, trimming what has grown wild, nourishing what blooms with purpose. You may never remember these nocturnal choices, yet they shape who you are when you wake. Every skill learned, every emotion softened, every fear resolved, all are refined here. In the silent choreography of sleep, the glymphatic symphony beneath this dreamwork, lies another process, quieter, still, yet vital. The glymphatic system, discovered only in the last decade, cleanses the brain during sleep. Like an invisible river, it washes away the metabolic byproducts of thought, molecules that, if left behind, cloud clarity and mood. During deep sleep, the brain's cells shrink slightly, opening channels between them. Cerebrospinal fluid rushes through these spaces, flushing toxins toward the bloodstream, where they can be carried away. It is a nightly purification, a renewal that cannot happen while you are awake. You may think of it as the brain's version of a gentle tide, washing over the shores of your neurons, restoring their brightness. Each night that you sleep deeply, this tide flows freely. Each night that you resist rest through noise, stress, or artificial light, the tide weakens and residues remain. Over time, these residues can dull thought and mood. Thus, the act of sleep is not luxury, but necessity, a biological cleansing. Even stars must cool to shine again. The architecture of dreams after deep sleep comes the realm of REM, rapid eye movement. Here, the brain ignites once more. The cortex lights up almost as vividly as in waking life. Eyes dart beneath closed lids. Muscles remain still, held in gentle paralysis by protective design. It is during REM that dreams unfold, a theater of symbols where the brain rehearses, experiments, and heals. Neuroscientists believe dreams integrate emotion with memory, helping the mind to process what the heart has not yet understood. If a moment in your day stirred fear or longing, your dreaming brain may replay it, not to torment you, but to soften it, to weave it safely into the tapestry of your experience. In this sense, dreams are a kind of emotional therapy. They allow the brain to simulate possibilities, explore without consequence, and resolve what waking logic cannot. What feels chaotic in dream imagery is often coherence in disguise. The subconscious mind speaking its own visual language. The cycles of night sleep does not move in a single line, but in cycles, roughly 90 minutes each. You drift from light sleep to deep sleep, rise again into REM, then descend once more. Through the night, these cycles repeat, with REM growing longer toward dawn. Each phase serves a purpose. Light sleep soothes your body into rest. Deep sleep restores physical strength, releases growth hormones, and fortifies immunity. REM sleep nourishes memory, creativity, and emotional balance. They form the full circle of rejuvenation. To wake in balance, all are needed, just as the planet requires night and day. The alchemy of forgetting as you rest. The brain not only remembers, it forgets. This may sound strange, but forgetting is sacred. To forget is to make room. Each day, your mind absorbs far more information than it can sustain. Names, images, half-thoughts, sounds, most fade away in sleep. The synapses that were lightly used during the day shrink back, clearing space for what matters. This pruning sharpens focus and keeps the mind adaptable without forgetting. Memory would become cluttered, thought heavy, creativity stifled. So the brain, wise and quiet, lets go of what you do not need. It surrenders the trivial, so the essential may shine. The dream of evolution, every creature on earth sleeps. Even jellyfish, who have no brain, exhibit a primitive rest rhythm. Sleep is not a weakness, but a law, a universal pulse written into the biology of life. During sleep, evolution itself whispers. The same rhythms that once guided ancient life through tides and moonlight still echo in your neurons today. You are not separate from the cosmos when you rest. You are in harmony with it. Your breathing slows to match the Earth's rotation. Your heart synchronizes with the deep cycles of night. Stars fade from the sky, and within you, billions of neural lights begin their own silent constellations. The universe sleeps through you. You are drifting now, neither awake nor entirely asleep. Your breathing is slow, the body heavy, yet within you. An orchestra begins to stir. The first notes are faint, whispers of neurons firing, flashes of memory, half-formed images. Then, like a composer raising her baton, your brain begins to play. This is the music of dreams, a song without sound, a rhythm that the conscious mind cannot hear yet somehow feels. Every dream is a melody built from your experiences, fragments of emotion, echoes of thought, stitched together by the brain's most mysterious process, the symphony of REM sleep, the neural orchestra inside your skull. Billions of neurons communicate in patterns, firing, pausing, harmonizing. During wakefulness, these patterns follow predictable forms, logic, speech, movement. But in REM sleep, the conductor changes. The prefrontal cortex, home of reason and control, steps back. The limbic system, seat of emotion and memory, takes the lead. It's as if logic takes a breath, allowing feeling to compose its own nocturnal symphony. The result is the dream, a world where meaning flows not through words, but through symbols, sensations, and surreal harmonies. You dream of flying not because physics changes, but because the emotional weight of freedom becomes music made visible. You dream of water when your mind is cleansing itself, of stairways when it is ascending toward understanding. Each dream is the brain's private concert where emotion, memory, and imagination improvise together. The science of the subconscious in this strange state. Your brainstem activates the pons, sending rhythmic bursts of activity through the thalamus, which then lights up the cortex, the part of the brain that constructs experience. This cascade is not random. It is the subconscious rehearsing possibilities, testing emotions, strengthening neural circuits. When you dream, your mind is solving puzzles without your awareness, integrating emotional learning, replaying fear safely, exploring what-if scenarios. A soldier's nightmare, though painful, may gradually soften trauma by replaying it in altered form. A musician's dream may inspire new melodies, as the creative networks of the brain light up in unpredictable but elegant combinations. Even abstract dreams of floating cities, endless corridors, or faces that shift like clouds have purpose. They show the mind's ability to hold complexity without needing resolution. Dreaming is how consciousness practices freedom, emotion in motion. If you could watch your brain during a vivid dream, you would see the amygdala, hippocampus, and anterior cingulate cortex glowing brightly, centers that process feeling, memory, and meaning. Dreams are emotional choreography. They allow the psyche to reframe intense emotions, fear, grief, love, hope in creative form. When something in your waking life remains unresolved, your brain does not abandon it at night. It transforms it into movement, metaphor, music. A lost friend may appear as a bird. An unfinished goal may become a mountain you climb. The symbols vary, but the emotional rhythm remains the same. Movement toward resolution. This is why dreams can feel so personal, so charged, even when they make little sense. They are emotional rehearsal, the night's quiet therapy session, orchestrated by biology itself. The painter's brain, your dreaming mind is a painter with infinite palettes. It draws from your memories, yes, but also from imagination and intuition, mixing them into new forms. The visual cortex, at the back of your brain, lights up vividly during REM sleep, painting colors and scenes as real as waking life. Meanwhile, the logic centers remain dimmed, allowing impossible juxtapositions to coexist, flying through oceans, breathing underwater, talking with light itself. It is through this relaxation of logic that creativity is born. The dream does not care whether something is possible. It only asks if it is felt. This freedom, neuroscientists believe, contributes to insight and problem solving. Many discoveries and works of art were born from dreams. Kekula's vision of the benzene ring, Paul McCartney's Yesterday, Einstein's thought experiments on relativity. Your sleeping brain is not idle, it is composing, connecting, creating. Dream logic and the self in the world of dreams. Identity becomes fluid. You may find yourself in multiple forms: observer, participant, stranger. Sometimes you are you. Sometimes you are everyone. This fluidity reflects how the sense of self, maintained by the parietal and frontal lobes, relaxes during REM. The boundaries between I and world soften. The dream self explores existence without ego. It is consciousness in its purest, most malleable form, curious, unguarded, playful. Perhaps this is why dreams feel both intimate and universal. They are made of you, yet they belong to all minds. Every human dreams, across time and culture, bound by the same neural symphony. It is a language older than speech, the first poetry of the mind. Lucid dreams, the middle ground. Sometimes awareness returns while dreaming. You realize you are dreaming, but remain inside it. This is lucid dreaming, a phenomenon where the prefrontal cortex reactivates partially, allowing metacognition, self-awareness, within the dream. Lucid dreamers often describe flying, exploring, or simply observing with awe. The experience is both scientific and spiritual. You become both conductor and instrument, sculpting the melody in real time. Researchers use EEG and fMRI scans to map this state. They've found that lucid dreaming bridges the waking and dreaming worlds, a balance between structure and surrender. When practiced mindfully, it can deepen creativity, ease nightmares, and cultivate emotional resilience. It is not escape, but communion, a gentle meeting between consciousness and its own creation. The universal dreamer cross cultures. Dreams have always been revered as messages, omens, or portals. But beyond mythology, there lies a shared biological truth. Dreaming is humanity's oldest form of inner storytelling. Every night, billions of people lie down, close their eyes, and enter private cinemas crafted by the same neural instruments. Different stories, same orchestra. When ancient shamans spoke of spirit journeys, they were describing, in poetic language, the same REM symphony that neuroscientists now measure in electric waves. The mystery has not diminished, it has deepened. Science does not strip wonder from dreaming, it refines it. The more we know about how the brain dreams, the more sacred the act becomes, a nightly bridge between matter and meaning, the healing harmony in your dreams. Emotions that seemed unbearable soften into symbols that can be held. The brain replays fear without danger, sadness without collapse, joy without demand. This emotional rehearsal strengthens neural circuits of resilience. It prepares you to meet waking life with greater balance. It is the quiet restoration of harmony. Even nightmares have their purpose. They awaken the mind's alarm systems, helping you process threat safely, away from the real world. They are harsh music, yes, but still part of the composition. To dream is to allow your brain to sing the songs it cannot express when awake. The dreamer as universe now. Imagine your mind at night as a galaxy of thought. Each neuron a star, each memory a planet orbiting in patterns of possibility. Dreams are the gravitational dance between them, energy flowing freely, shaping new constellations of meaning. You are not merely dreaming, you are observing creation itself in miniature. The laws of physics bend not to deceive, but to remind you that within the vast architecture of the brain lies the blueprint of imagination. Your consciousness, untethered, explores infinity, and then gently returns to the body, carrying fragments of starlight into morning. Closing reflection dreaming, you realize, is not the opposite of waking, it is its complement. Both are states of knowing. One through logic, the other through metaphor. As the dream fades, you lie still for a moment in the gray dawn, feeling both worlds inside you, the silent world of sleep, the bright pulse of waking life. You begin to sense that they are not separate, but parts of the same melody, the same consciousness, shifting octaves. And as your eyes open to the first light, you wonder softly if dreams are music made of neurons. Then what symphony is waking life composing even now? You wake softly, carried upward from the dream world like a leaf lifted by a morning breeze. Around you, reality reforms, light through the curtains, the faint scent of earth after rain, the whisper of your own breath, and then, quietly, memory arrives, a name, a face, a place, fragile threads weaving themselves back into the tapestry of your awareness. Without them, the morning would be blank, the world familiar yet unrecognizable. Memory is what anchors you. It ties today to yesterday, emotion to meaning, self to time. Yet the more you explore it, the more you realize it is not a storehouse, but a living fabric, constantly being rewoven by the loom of your mind, the architecture of remembering inside your brain. Memories are not filed like books on a shelf. They are networks, constellations of neurons that light up together, forming a pattern that represents experience. When you recall a childhood sound, like the creak of a swing, the auditory cortex activates. When you remember the color of the sky that day, the visual cortex joins in. The emotion you felt, freedom, laughter, wakes in the amygdala. Memory is not a single location, but a collaboration, a symphony of brain regions reuniting in perfect timing, and at the center of this harmony lies a curved structure deep in the temporal lobe, the hippocampus. It is the bridge between now and then, transforming fleeting impressions into lasting traces. Every time you experience something new, the hippocampus encodes it, linking neurons through chemical signals and electrical sparks. But this process is not instant. Each memory must be consolidated, repeated in subtle rhythms, until it is woven into the vast fabric of self. The fragile spark, you might think of memory as stable, but it is anything but fixed. Each time you recall an event, the brain reopens its pattern, and, for a moment, the memory becomes malleable again. It can change slightly, blending with the present emotion, reshaping under the influence of time. This is known as reconsolidation, the act of remembering and rewriting simultaneously. It is as if every memory is a candle's flame. Each time you light it, it flickers anew, the same, yet never exactly the same. Through this gentle plasticity, the brain stays alive. Your memories breathe, adapt, and evolve with you. They are not frozen records of who you were, but living reflections of who you are becoming. The layers of memory there are many kinds of remembering, each with its own rhythm, its own depth. The first is sensory memory, the brief echo of the moment just past, the afterimage of light, the lingering scent of rain. It fades in seconds, yet it seeds awareness. Then comes short-term memory, what you hold for a moment, like a number, a word, a thought. It lasts perhaps 20 seconds, unless renewed through repetition. But the heart of identity lies in long-term memory experiences stored through structural change. Here, neurons grow new connections. Synapses strengthen. The molecular machinery of the brain, proteins, receptors, neurotransmitters shifts to hold the pattern in place. This transformation is the cellular act of learning the mind's version of engraving meaning into stone. Yet, even here, the stone is soft, carved by emotion. Memories attached to feeling love, fear, wonder, endure more deeply than those without. Emotion gives memory its glue, its weight in consciousness. Emotion, the color of memory. Some glimmer softly, barely seen. Others burn with vivid hue. The difference lies in emotion. When something moves you deeply, the amygdala signals the hippocampus, saying, "Remember this." Stress or joy floods the body with neurochemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine, enhancing the brain's encoding. That is why you remember where you were when love first arrived, or when you felt loss, triumph. Emotion is the artist's brush that paints experience in lasting color. But it can also distort, exaggerating fear, amplifying sorrow. Thus, the art of living is learning not only what to remember, but how to remember it kindly. You cannot erase the past, but you can reshape its light through new context, compassion, and understanding. Memory as storytelling every night as you sleep. Your brain replays fragments of the day, weaving them into a coherent story. This is memory consolidation, supported by the hippocampus and the neocortex. Like a storyteller editing a draft, your brain refines the narrative, strengthening some threads, letting others fade. When you recall an event later, you don't replay a recording, you recreate it. You build it anew each time, guided by imagination and meaning. This is why memories change subtly over years, aligning with your evolving self. You are not a static character trapped in the past. You are the author, continually rewriting your own myth. Memory, then, is not about perfect recall. It is about coherence, the ability to weave continuity out of experience, to know that you are the same soul moving through time's gentle river. The memory keepers, certain memories lie beyond words, the feeling of riding a bicycle, the rhythm of typing, the grace of a familiar melody. These belong to procedural memory, rooted in the cerebellum and basal ganglia. They are the quiet habits of skill, the body's wisdom stored in motion. Even when explicit memory fades, as in aging or dementia, these procedural memories often remain. A pianist who cannot recall a name may still find her fingers flowing effortlessly across the keys. The music is stored not in thought but in movement, in the deep neural choreography of practice and repetition. It reminds you that knowledge lives not only in the mind, but in the body, in the graceful precision of every learned gesture, forgetting the gentle art of letting go. Just as sleep prunes unneeded synapses, memory too depends on forgetting. The brain's ability to erase or weaken connections is what keeps it agile and uncluttered. Without forgetting, every detail of every day would overwhelm you. The art of memory is balance, keeping what nourishes, releasing what burdens. Sometimes forgetting is not loss, but mercy. To forget pain is to make space for healing. To forget triviality is to make room for wonder. Even the mind knows the wisdom of letting go, pruning, not to diminish, but to bloom anew. When memory fades, there are moments when memory falters through age, trauma, or illness. The hippocampus may weaken, connections fray, and yet, even in these fragile states, something enduring remains. The emotional imprint, the essence of feeling. A person may forget names, but still smile at a familiar voice. They may not recall the story, but they know the warmth of love. It is as if beneath all memory lies a deeper substrate, the music of connection itself. When words vanish, that music remains. This teaches you that identity is not merely data, but emotion, not what you remember, but what you continue to feel. The ever-weaving self-you are not a sum of static memories, but a pattern constantly being rewritten. Every experience adds a new thread. Every reflection reshapes the weave, the default mode network. Active during rest and introspection, stitches past, present, and future into one continuous self-narrative. It is the quiet storyteller behind your daydreams, the voice that whispers, "This is me." Memory, in this light, is not about clinging to what was, but staying connected to the unfolding pattern of who you are becoming. To remember well is to remain fluid, to let the threads move, shimmer, reweave, in grace. Closing reflection tonight. As you rest, imagine your memories as starlight in a dark sky. Some shine brightly, others pulse faintly in the distance. Each one, no matter how dim, contributes to the constellation of you. The night gathers them gently, weaving a pattern that no one else has ever worn, a tapestry of laughter, loss, wonder, and learning. You breathe softly, knowing that remembering is not about grasping, but about belonging to time, to story, to self. And as sleep approaches again, a quiet question rises within you. If memory is the thread that weaves you, what new patterns will tomorrow begin to sew? Night descends, and your body surrenders to its oldest ritual, sleep. The world fades, not in darkness, but in softness. The pulse of thought slows. The breath deepens. Neurons that once fired in conversation begin to whisper in a rhythm older than memory itself. You drift between waking and dreaming, standing at the threshold of consciousness, where the mind learns in secret. In this quiet state, your brain does not rest. It transforms. Deep within, electrical storms dance across sleeping fields of neurons. Patterns emerge, dissolve, and reappear, as though your brain is weaving a silent story from the fabric of your day. You are no longer aware of your body, yet every cell hums with the memory of being alive. Dreams begin here. They do not arrive suddenly, but rather they bloom like mist rising from a cool lake. At first, fragments appear. A face, a room, a sound that echoes from nowhere. Then they merge into a world of their own logic, where memories mingle with imagination, and impossible things feel completely real. Dreams are not mere illusions. They are the brain's way of rehearsing life. When you dream, your visual cortex glows as if your eyes are still open. The amygdala, your center for emotion, pulses with vivid feeling. The hippocampus, the guardian of memory, gently replays the day's moments, testing what to keep and what to release. Like a skilled editor, your mind cuts, rearranges, and reimagines, creating stories that carry meaning beyond the literal. A conversation unfinished in waking life may reappear in dream, dressed in symbols. A place you've never been might merge with a room you know well. Through these shifting landscapes, your brain is not escaping, it is integrating. Science calls this memory consolidation, but you can think of it more tenderly as your mind tucking away its lessons under the pillow of sleep. Every emotion, every challenge, every joy is quietly reviewed. Like a librarian working through the night, the brain files experiences into long-term storage, weaving emotion into knowledge, pain into wisdom. You might wonder why such strange stories. Why the flying, the falling, the feeling of endless pursuit? Because emotion is the ink of the dreaming brain. When something stirs your heart deeply, your neural circuits replay it, seeking to understand. In dreams, the rules of gravity and logic fall away, allowing emotion to take center stage. This freedom gives your brain space to experiment, to test fears safely, to relive joys, to soften what hurts. Dreams, in this way, are the brain's gentle therapy. Even ancient cultures sensed this truth. The Egyptians saw dreams as messages from the gods. The Greeks built temples for dream incubation, believing that within sleep the soul traveled through hidden worlds. Today, neuroscience paints the same mystery in new colors. The sleeping brain, far from idle, acts as a creative forge, blending the old with the new, preparing the mind for tomorrow. When you awaken from a vivid dream, a part of you feels changed, even if you cannot explain why. The emotions linger, like music you can't quite remember but still feel. That lingering warmth, or unease, or wonder, is evidence that your mind has practiced being human. In REM sleep, the deepest stage of dreaming, your body lies still while your mind moves freely. The brainstem paralyzes your muscles to keep you safe, ensuring that your dream actions stay imagined. Yet your heartbeat, breathing, and brain activity rise and fall like waves. If someone watched your eyes beneath your closed lids, they would see them dart rapidly, tracing invisible worlds. Each night, you cycle through this state several times. Each time, your brain rehearses life, A dancer refines steps, a child learns language, an adult replays decisions. You are, without knowing it, practicing how to live more gently, more wisely. Dreaming is not random, it's rhythmic. It follows a pattern shaped by the day's experiences, emotions, and even the body's chemistry. The more you learn or feel in waking life, the more vivid and active your dreams become. It's as though your brain stretches, adapting to new connections, a secret continuation of even in sleep. This connection between dreaming and learning has been shown in studies. When people practice a new skill, like playing the piano or navigating a maze, their performance improves more after a night of vivid REM sleep. The brain replays the activity, strengthening neural pathways, fine-tuning memory and movement. Dreaming, then, is not escape, it is rehearsal. But not all dreams are peaceful. Sometimes they carry shadows, anxiety, conflict, fear. Even these serve a purpose. The brain uses simulation to help you face what frightens you, preparing you for real-world challenges. It's emotional resilience training disguised as fantasy. When you wake, even if unsettled, you are subtly stronger. And sometimes dreams are more than practice, they are creation. Great artists, scientists, and inventors have drawn inspiration from dreams. Kekul, seeing the shape of the benzene ring in a serpent biting its tail. Paul McCartney hearing the melody of yesterday in his sleep. Mary Shelley envisioning Frankenstein in a restless dream beside a stormy lake. Your sleeping mind is a quiet genius. It does not speak in words, but in images, symbols drawn from memory and emotion. To interpret dreams literally misses their beauty. They are not riddles to solve, but mirrors to feel through. What you dream reveals not a secret message, but a living connection between your conscious and unconscious selves. In that connection lies healing during dreaming. The stress-related neurotransmitter norepinephrine, which fuels alertness and anxiety, drops to nearly zero. The emotional brain, free from this chemical tension, can replay painful memories in a calmer state. It's as if your mind revisits what hurt, but now in safety, allowing you to make peace with it. Dreaming, then, is emotional first aid. Each night, your brain performs invisible repair work, washing away stress, integrating memories, and nurturing creativity. As dawn approaches, your dreams begin to fade. The brain's chemistry shifts. The rational mind stirs. Fragments dissolve like mist in light. Yet, somewhere inside, their lessons remain quiet, unspoken, guiding you in subtle ways through the day. And as you rise, you may sense something delicate that you've not only rested but been remade. The night has shaped you, gently and invisibly. You've rehearsed emotions, strengthened memories, and touched the mystery of consciousness itself. You've glimpsed how the brain, even in silence, continues to grow. And as you wonder what other secret rehearsals might happen beneath your awareness, your thoughts begin to drift toward the next horizon of the mind, toward awareness itself, the place where waking and dreaming meet. You wake before the light. There is no noise yet, only the soft rhythm of your breath and the faint pulse of your heartbeat echoing through the quiet room. Your eyes remain closed, and yet something within you is stirring, a sense of knowing that you are here, breathing, alive. This moment, so small it often passes unnoticed, is the birthplace of awareness. Before words, before movement, there is this simple noticing. I am. not as a thought, but as a presence, vast and wordless. Your mind, once a theater of dreams, now turns its gaze inward, awakening to itself. In neuroscience, this gentle transition from dreaming to waking is a marvel of coordination. As consciousness stirs, your brain's networks begin to light up in a symphony of reconnection. The thalamus, once filtering sensory silence, opens its gates to sound and sight. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of reflection, begins to hum with organization. And somewhere between them, awareness blooms, not as a place, but as an experience. Awareness is not a single neuron's job. It is the harmony of billions. Imagine your brain as a vast orchestra. Each instrument, vision, memory, emotion, language, plays its own melody. But awareness is not one of these instruments. It is the listening itself, the silent field that holds every sound. You are both the orchestra and the listener, both the music and the silence between the notes. This awareness feels personal, yet it does not belong to the you who plans or remembers. It is older than that, a steady witness that watches thought and emotion pass like clouds across a wide sky. You can sense it when you pause, truly pause, and listen to your own thinking. A thought arises. I need to get up soon. Another follows. I wish I could stay here longer. But between those thoughts, there is space, a gap where nothing is said. Yet everything feels clear. That space is awareness. The brain, in this state, shows remarkable coherence. When researchers study experienced meditators or moments of restful attention, they see synchronized waves, slow alpha rhythms, spreading like ripples through the cortex. These waves mark a mind that is both alert and calm, deeply awake yet undisturbed. In this rhythm, your sense of self softens. You begin to feel less like a separate thinker, more like a field through which thought flows. The mind, once scattered across 1,000 concerns, gathers back into unity. You are here. You are whole. You are watching the mind watch itself. This reflective awareness, the capacity to notice your own inner life, is what makes human consciousness extraordinary. Other animals dream, learn, and remember, but this inward turning, this self-knowing gaze, belongs uniquely to you. Through it, your brain gains the ability to reshape itself deliberately, to choose which neural paths to strengthen, which emotions to soothe, which habits to release. Awareness, then, is both the mirror and the sculptor of the mind. When you bring gentle attention to your thoughts, something beautiful happens. The prefrontal cortex, your center of focus and empathy, begins to regulate the amygdala, the seat of fear. The storm of reaction quiets. The emotional waves settle into clarity. What was once automatic becomes chosen. This is not control, but calm collaboration. The mind learning to listen to itself. In daily life, awareness often hides beneath noise. You identify with your thoughts, mistaking them for truth. I am anxious. I am tired. I am failing. But when awareness deepens, you begin to notice there is anxiety here. There is tiredness here. Subtle as that shift may seem, it is profound. The difference between being caught in the storm and standing in the still eye of it. Science now understands what mystics have long whispered, that awareness changes the brain. Through mindfulness, neural circuits related to compassion, balance, and resilience grow stronger. The insula, which senses the body's internal state, becomes more attuned, bridging the physical and emotional. The default mode network, often busy replaying the past or imagining the future, quiets down, allowing peace to emerge in the present. Awareness, in this sense, is neuroplasticity made conscious. It is the act of choosing where the mind rests. When you rest it on the breath, neurons that anchor calmness fire together and strengthen. When you rest it on gratitude, the emotional circuits of joy subtly expand. Every act of attention becomes an act of creation. You are no longer just a passenger of thought. You are the navigator of consciousness. But awareness is not something to do. It is something to remember. You do not create it. You return to it. It is always here, like sunlight waiting behind clouds. Even in distraction, even in pain, there is awareness, noticing both. This noticing is freedom. It frees you from identification with the endless noise of the mind. It allows you to witness sadness without drowning in it, to feel anger without acting from it, to experience thought without believing every story it tells. In the language of neuroscience, this is meta-awareness, the brain's ability to monitor its own activity. But in the language of experience, it is something softer, the quiet eye that sees everything come and go. When you live with awareness, life slows down. The space between stimulus and response widens. You begin to feel more, not less, but with tenderness instead of tension. The senses sharpen. Light becomes texture. Sound becomes warmth. Time becomes spacious, and something unexpected happens. Compassion awakens, because the more aware you become of your own inner world, the more you recognize the same patterns in others. Their fear, their hope, their confusion, all familiar, all shared. Awareness dissolves the illusion of separation. It turns the brain's mirror neurons, the circuits of empathy, into bridges of understanding. You are no longer alone inside your thoughts. You are part of the great network of feeling that connects every mind. This is the deeper meaning of the observer within, not distance, but intimacy. The ability to hold the world gently without clutching it. To see both the outer and inner universes as reflections in the same quiet pond as the day unfolds. Your awareness moves with you into action, conversation, decision, but at its core remains still, like the eye of a hurricane. It does not vanish when you're busy. It hums beneath the surface, the background hum of being itself. And sometimes, when you pause, maybe between breaths, or just before sleep, you feel that vastness again. The simple knowing that watches everything arise and pass away. The awareness that was here before thought, before name, before story. You might wonder, if awareness watches everything, what watches awareness? That question is the soft edge of mystery. And as your mind drifts deeper into that quiet wonder, the thought of the next chapter begins to form. Like dawn after reflection, toward the unseen intelligence that connects all awareness together, the unified field of consciousness. You sit in silence, yet you are never truly alone. Even in solitude, the hum of other minds vibrates around you, faint but constant, like distant music carried through the air. The thoughts you think, the feelings you hold, the words you speak, all exist within a greater ocean of connection. This is not metaphor alone. It is science wrapped in mystery. Your brain is a network of billions of neurons, yes, but so are all other brains. When two people meet, their neural rhythms begin to align. Scientists call this interbrain synchrony, a subtle harmonizing of electrical patterns that occurs during shared attention, conversation, or emotion. Like two instruments tuning to the same note, the mind of one gently influences the other. You have felt this before, the calm that comes from sitting beside someone peaceful, the unease that arises in a tense room, the shared laughter that needs no explanation. These are not coincidences, they are resonance. Your brain, like a sensitive receiver, detects the invisible language of presence. When you listen deeply, your neurons mirror the rhythm of another's voice. When you empathize, your limbic system activates in patterns similar to theirs. This is the science of mirror neurons, specialized cells that bridge the divide between self and other. Through them, the brain learns not only by observation, but by felt participation. You see someone smile, and your own brain smiles back. This is the biological foundation of compassion from an evolutionary view. It ensured survival. To feel another's pain was to understand danger. To share joy was to strengthen community. But beneath that evolutionary story lies something more profound, a recognition that consciousness, though expressed individually, is deeply collective. Every mind is a pattern within a greater field. Imagine thoughts not as isolated sparks, but as ripples spreading through the neural ocean of humanity. Each idea you hold subtly influences others through tone, through gesture, through the silent energy of your being. Even when no words are spoken, communication continues in the rhythm of breath, the softness of gaze, the quality of attention. The boundaries between minds are more porous than they seem. Modern neuroscience reveals that when people meditate together, their brainwaves begin to synchronize. In music ensembles, performers' heart rates rise and fall in near unison. In group chanting or prayer, breathing aligns across dozens of bodies, creating measurable coherence. These are glimpses of the unified mind, not as mysticism, but as physiology. You are a note in the great song of human consciousness. Each culture, each generation adds its tone, beliefs, art, knowledge, language, layering meaning upon the universal hum. Memory, like a shared genetic code, travels not only through DNA, but through ideas, stories, and symbols passed from one brain to another. Every poem you read, every lesson you learn is the continuation of someone else's neural fire. Their synapses spoke to yours across time. Through this continuity, human thought becomes collective evolution. And yet, beneath the layers of culture and noise, there remains something constant, awareness itself, the same light shining through countless minds. The philosopher William James once called it the stream of consciousness, but perhaps it is more. Like a river, one current, flowing through many forms. Each mind is a whirlpool within that current, distinct in motion, yet inseparable from the whole. When you look into another's eyes and feel the sudden recognition of being understood, that is the river revealing itself. Two streams meeting, merging, and continuing as one. This unity is not abstract, it has structure. The human brain's electromagnetic fields, the heart's rhythmic pulses, and the brain waves emitted during rest or emotion all generate subtle energy patterns. Though small, they interact. When you stand close to someone, your fields overlap. Your bodies, your rhythms, your consciousnesses begin to entrain to find coherence. It is as if reality itself prefers harmony. And so, cooperation feels good. Altruism feels natural. Compassion brings peace not only to the heart but to the nervous system. In collective kindness, your parasympathetic system, the rest and restore network, activates, lowering stress and stabilizing heartbeat. The biology of unity becomes the physiology of peace. This is the science of connection made visible in feeling. Yet, the unified mind is not limited to human contact. It extends to all living systems. Trees share chemical messages through underground networks of fungi, a wood wide web that allows forests to communicate, to warn, to nourish. Birds navigate in synchronized flocks. Fish turn as one body in the sea. Everywhere in nature, intelligence expresses itself collectively. Perhaps consciousness itself follows this pattern, a distributed intelligence, arising wherever life connects. You are not separate from that flow. The neurons in your brain reflect the branching of trees, the firing of stars, the clustering of galaxies. Each follows the same fractal geometry, the universal pattern of connection. To sense this is to awaken a different kind of awareness, not of self alone, but of participation. When you speak kindly, your words travel outward, shaping emotional weather beyond your sight. When you think with compassion, your nervous system radiates coherence, gently influencing others in unseen ways. Your presence becomes a quiet force of balance in the field of minds, and when others do the same, harmony deepens, thought becomes symphony. This is not poetic fancy. The research of social neuroscience shows how shared emotional states can spread across networks like light through glass. A single calm individual can entrain a group. A single anxious one can amplify unrest. Awareness, therefore, is both individual responsibility and collective gift. You are a node in a great consciousness web. Each act of understanding strengthens its light dot in moments of deep empathy. When you truly feel another's experience as your own, the illusion of separation thins. Your heart's rhythm and theirs synchronize. Your brain's patterns align. For a heartbeat, there is no I and you, only the shared hum of being. Perhaps this is the quiet truth behind love. Love is the brain's highest coherence, the ultimate resonance between two awarenesses. In that state, oxytocin floods the body, reducing fear, dissolving barriers, merging emotion and safety into one warm current. You are still yourself, but also more than yourself, a part of something whole. And when that love extends beyond one person to community, to nature, to all life, the unified mind reveals its deeper intelligence, cooperation, compassion, and continuity in this vast network. Even silence communicates when you meditate. When you breathe in stillness, your calm ripples outward, touching the invisible architecture of human connection. You may never see its effects, but the field shifts subtly, beautifully, because consciousness is not contained within a skull. It extends, reflects, and resonates. It is the shared ocean through which all thought swims. As you rest in this realization, you begin to sense the next mystery forming on the horizon of thought. If minds can connect across space and time, could they also shape the reality they perceive? Could awareness itself be part of the universe's design, not a byproduct, but a builder? The question glows softly, unanswered but alive, leading you toward the next chapter, where the observing mind meets the fabric of the cosmos. Night stretches wide, an ocean of quiet, glittering points. You gaze upward, and for a moment, the stars seem to look back. Something ancient stirs within you, a feeling that the boundary between your mind and the sky is thinner than it appears. You are breathing, and so is the cosmos. Every breath you take once belonged to a star. The oxygen flowing through your blood was born in the nuclear heart of suns long extinguished. The calcium in your bones, the iron in your veins, the carbon that forms your thoughts, all forged in stellar fire, scattered through space, gathered again into this miracle of being you call self. You are the universe, remembering itself from the viewpoint of science. Your brain is a tapestry of matter, arranged into awareness. From the viewpoint of wonder, it is the cosmos waking up inside its own creation. The same laws that guide the spin of galaxies govern the flow of ions across your neurons. The same geometry that organizes spiral arms of stars curls through the structure of your DNA as above, so within. When physicists peer deep into the subatomic world, they find vibration, fields pulsing in patterns of energy, forming everything that exists. When neuroscientists map the mind, they too find oscillation, waves of electrical rhythm shaping thought and emotion. The microcosm mirrors the macrocosm, each pulse a note in a universal symphony. Perhaps consciousness is not a product of matter, but a pattern of participation, the way the universe experiences itself through form. In the beginning, before stars or sound, there was potential, a quantum sea of probability, shimmering with possibility. Out of that silence, the cosmos unfolded, expanding into light, dust, and time. Within that unfolding complexity rose atoms joined into molecules, molecules into cells, cells into thought, each layer built upon the last, weaving awareness into the fabric of existence. Now, billions of years later, that awareness looks up through your eyes and wonders how it all began. This wonder is not accidental. It is continuation. Every human curiosity, every question is the echo of the universe's own desire to know itself. When you study stars, you are the stars studying their origin. When you reflect on consciousness, you are consciousness exploring its own reflection. Even the structure of your brain reflects the cosmic order. The network of neurons resembles the distribution of galaxies across the observable universe, a fractal pattern of connection spanning scales beyond comprehension. Each node, whether neuron or galaxy, pulses with energy, linked through invisible filaments of interaction. It is as though reality prefers networks, webs of relationship that allow energy, matter, and meaning to flow. In physics, this web is space-time, a vast, flexible field curving with mass and motion. In neuroscience, it is the connectome, billions of synapses carrying the dance of thought. Both reveal a truth that existence itself is relational. Nothing stands alone. Everything is entangled in the rhythm of everything else. Quantum mechanics deepens this mystery. At the smallest scales, particles do not behave like solid things, but like possibilities, waves that collapse into certainty only when observed. This act of observation, consciousness, meeting potential, brings reality into focus. You might wonder, is the observer merely watching or participating in creation? Scientists still debate this. Some suggest consciousness collapses the wave function. Others see it as an emergent property of complexity. But even if the details remain uncertain, one truth whispers through both science and philosophy: that awareness and existence are intertwined in ways we barely understand. To be conscious is to be woven into the fabric of the cosmos, not as a spectator, but as a thread. Your thoughts ripple outward in electromagnetic waves, faint but real, blending with the planet's own field. Your heartbeat generates rhythm that resonates beyond your skin. Your emotions, your attention, your awareness all interact subtly with the world around you. The cosmos is not distant. It breathes through you. Even time, which seems linear and untouchable, bends within consciousness. The brain does not experience reality as fixed. It stitches perception together, moment by moment, creating the flow of experience like a film reel unspooling light. In dreams, time folds. In meditation, it slows. In awe, it disappears. Perhaps time is not absolute, but relational, a measure of awareness unfolding within matter. And what if consciousness itself is not confined to humans? Everywhere in nature, awareness glimmers in scale and shade. A sunflower turns toward the sun. A dolphin recognizes itself in a mirror. A forest communicates underground through networks of fungi. Intelligence seems less a property of form and more a field of relationship, present wherever complexity gives rise to feedback and adaptation. You, then, are part of a vast continuum, not a single island of thought, but a wave crest in the sea of universal mind. Consider this: when you feel awe under the stars, your default mode network, the region of the brain tied to self-focus, grows quiet. In its place, a sense of vastness arises, a merging of self with space. This is not illusion. It is perception widening to include the whole. Neurologically, is the mind remembering its cosmic nature, and with that remembrance comes peace, because when you sense that you are part of the universe, not apart from it, fear begins to dissolve. The anxiety of isolation fades into belonging. Every atom in your body hums with the knowledge that it has been everywhere, part of comets, coral, and clouds. Death loses its sharpness, for matter never ends. It only changes shape, changes song. You realize consciousness, too, may not end, but transform. Some scientists explore this through the lens of panpsychism, the idea that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, present in all matter, from electrons to ecosystems. Others turn to integrated information theory, suggesting that wherever information organizes itself with complexity and feedback, experience arises, whichever path one takes. The direction points toward unity. Your mind is not an isolated spark, but a condensation of universal awareness. It is through you that the cosmos perceives itself in color, in language, in love. Through you, the universe gains eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to feel. And when you rest in stillness, when the mind grows quiet enough to listen, you can almost sense that vast awareness listening back, the hum between your thoughts, the silence between stars. They are made of the same presence. This is the meeting point of science and spirit, the place where neurons and nebulae bow to the same mystery. It is not to be solved, but to be felt. As you drift deeper into this understanding, Your breath synchronizes with the rhythm of the world. The inhale becomes expansion, the exhale contraction, the same dance of galaxies breathing across time. And in this moment, you see, the mind and the cosmos are not two mirrors facing each other. They are one endless reflection. You are both observer and observed, dreamer and dream, atom and infinity. And as this realization settles into calm, another question begins to rise, gentle as dawn light. If consciousness weaves through all things, how might it shape the future of life and mind itself? What might evolution look like when awareness becomes its own guide? The thought lingers, soft and luminous, leading you toward the next chapter, the evolving mind, the future of consciousness.